overwhelmed.
90% of businesses, they're just doing a business that will never be worth anything.
Daniel Priestley. Build a business that acquirers want to buy and build products that customers want to buy.
Now, most people don't even realize that's the challenge. Teams of 3 to 12 people really could create stuff that makes hundreds of millions.
You might need to move from 1 person to 4 people. You might need to move to 32 people in your business.
I'm impossible to offend. You can punch me straight in the nose. You can tell me I'm full of shit and I'll love it. Am I building something of value here?
And when you do it, all you risk is becoming in serious danger of improving your business and life and making more money. How dare you bring this up?
Less so now.
The reality of the world. All right, Daniel Priestley, are we in a new revolution?
We're in an entrepreneur revolution.
Well, that was back in, when did you write that?
I wrote that in 2012.
The Entrepreneur Revolution, 2012. I read that book as well.
12 years ago, yeah.
Amazing book. I mean, there was 3 really big ones, yeah? Entrepreneur Revolution, KPI,
Oversubscribed.
And oversubscribed.
Yeah.
The ATM, the ascending transaction model. I remember it was ringing through my ears because I listened to that one a few times, actually.
That's great.
So, yeah, we're in an entrepreneur revolution.
It's played out. It's played out how I saw it happening. If you think about big revolutions, industrial revolution, agricultural age, basically this. If you take the 4 factors of production that you learn about in economics: land, labor, capital, enterprise. Agricultural age was the land-focused age. Capital and labor is the industrial revolution, and enterprise is the age that we're now in, which is that the leading factor of production is your ability to spot opportunities and take them to market.
The leading factor in production?
The leading factor of production. So the most important factor of production is now enterprise. Think about capital and labor. Realistically, 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to start a big business, let's say 30 years ago, we wanted to have a global business. We wanted to have customers all over the world, 20 countries, let's say. You would have to have 100, 200, 300 employees. You would have to raise millions and millions just to kind of, contemplate that. I've got a business, Score App. We've got 25 full-time equivalents. We've got customers in 150 countries. We've got 6,500 customers all over the world. We're growing at 1% a week, every single week, compounding. So, we're living in an age where what is a global business doesn't have to be a massive team. It doesn't have to be a lot of capital. We didn't raise very much money.
GSB.
A glable small business.
Yeah, GSB in the entrepreneur.
You did read the book.
I definitely read the book.
You studied up for this.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. That one's, I can quote that from years back. So, yeah. A global small business, a connected environment. Everybody's connected on socials, so you can literally do business.
Yeah. I'm really lucky to be friends with some of these young YouTubers who are like mid-20s. With a team of 10, they get 100 million to 1 billion views every month. They make tens of millions in profit. These young YouTubers who are all digital, where they're completely all in on the new economy. They make $1 million a month, and they have a team of 10, and they do numbers that CNN would only dream of. Like traditional media businesses would dream of the numbers that these guys do.
CNN being the empire.
Yeah.
Against the GSB,
the
global
the
small
force,
business. The force. Yeah, the force.
The rebels.
So you love growing businesses in the infancy stages.
I really do. Yeah.
Like, love it. I mean, for a lot of people, that's the pain of business, isn't it? That first million or 2 million.
Yeah.
That's the painful bit. But why do you love it so much?
It's kind of like if you're a musician, there's the phase of writing the album and creating the songs, and then there's the touring the album and scaling up. So like in business, the fun part for me is figuring out what the business is and what the product is and product market fit and what the customers want, and like innovating and iterating really fast. The scale up journey, most people, like if you've been through scale up, you realize that a huge part of scale up is boredom. Like crank the handle, repeat what works, do it over and over and over and over again. So like once you've figured out what works in business and now it's time to scale up, you're saying the same thing over and over 3 times a week. You're recruiting the same types of person over and over. So you figure out, okay, we need these kind of salespeople, so we got to recruit them again and again. We need these kind of devs. We're going to recruit these people. So it's very much you're in the repeat what works phase of business, and that's a great phase. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, that's not the fun part. The fun part is come up with something of value, and then scaling it it's great, and that's what pays the bills. That's what gets the big exit. But ultimately, the fun part, I like the first 2 million.
I had 3 words ringing through my head as you were saying that, and I don't know what your reflection's going to be this, but do it properly. As soon as you said the value proposition, or who's the target, what we're going after, this little bit of planning is often neglected. And when we neglect that, what the trap is the rat race over here.
Oh yeah, totally. 90% of businesses, they're just doing a business that will never be worth anything.
Let me repeat this, folks. 90% of business is doing a business that's never going to be worth anything.
Yeah, and that's generous. That's me being nice.
We're being polite, folks. Take the positive out of everything we're saying, because you're going to be in the 10% here.
Yeah.
So the stuff that we're talking about, are we talking about value proposition here, or is that just marketing language that I'm just spieling out?
Yeah, look, here's why it's difficult. The really difficult thing, and this is why so few businesses actually create real economic value. Number one, you have to understand what an acquirer wants to buy. And even if you don't intend to sell the business anytime soon, it's very useful to know what acquirers want to buy, because that should guide you towards what you build. But then you've then got to come back to ground zero and build a product that customers want. So it's very, very hard to build a product that customers want and then turn that into a business that an acquirer would want to buy. And that ultimately is the challenge of business. Now, most people don't even realize that's the challenge. So if someone's just simply out there, looking after customers and delivering something that's, fantastic. I just got my hair cut this morning, and the guy who's cutting my hair, he did a great job and all of that sort of stuff. And he's going to do 20 years of cutting hair, and at the end of 20 years of cutting hair, he'll just retire, and that'll be it. If you did 20 years of building a software company, you'd retire and sell it for 100 million. So, so there are certain activities that stack and stack and stack and stack, and you build value. And then there are certain things where at the end of every week, you go on the weekend and you start from scratch on Monday the next day, and that's it. There is no stacking of value. You're just doing one economic week and over and over.
So what's the secret to starting to stack value then?
Yeah, so let's start with what an acquirer would want to buy, and then we'll work backwards from that. So an acquirer wants 3 things. They basically want a core team who don't disappear once they buy a company. Let's imagine that someone's going to buy a company for 100 million.
Yeah.
They say, well, we want a core team. And normally that core team has to be at least 30, so it's not founder dependent. Anything less than 30, when the founder gets yanked out, or if the founder goes to start something new, the founder has a quiet word with the team and says, hey, do you want to come and start my new thing? And everyone goes, yeah. Okay, we'll come across. Right, so that's an acquirer's worst fear. Once you get about 30, you got most of the team are kind of embedded in the business, and they're not really having daily contact with the founder.
30 people?
Yeah, 30 people. Yeah, 30 full-time equivalents. So if you've got 30 people in a tech company, let's say, they're not necessarily completely enmeshed with the founder. Maybe the first 5 or 10 are, but certainly the 20 or 30 who run the business, probably not so much. So most acquirers want to have a core team that is not going to disappear. That's what they're trying to establish. Second thing is they want proprietary assets. They want some sort of asset that is unique to the business, hard to copy.
Yeah.
It's software, it's media, it's technology, it's data, it's intellectual property, right? So something that ticks those boxes. And then the final thing they want is they want recurring revenue that can easily be forecast by a CFO. So they want to have their CFO draw up an Excel spreadsheet for this business, and they want to literally just drag the formula across 60 months plus, and then it just goes autocomplete, and it says, okay, well, with just a few key assumptions, we know that the revenue gets to this if we drag it out. And they're just basically looking for those 3 things. So recurring revenue or predictable revenue, core team of people, and proprietary assets that they can't copy. That it would be easier to buy the business than try and copy the assets. So that's that. So you kind of want to work back from that and say, well, am I building something that will eventually be those three things? And then if we then go right down what do customers want, so the customer value proposition is the customer is in pain or frustration, life is less than perfect. They imagine a desired reality that would be better. They're facing obstacles and they want a path of least resistance that involves very little time or effort on their behalf. So we need to zoom into the customer's head. So now we're trying to marry up what does an acquirer want with what does a customer want, and then build a journey in between.
Yeah, we've had it there in a nutshell. Okay, so we do both. What the acquirer wants. I did a podcast with someone, Andy Alderson. He sold a business called Vanarama. Mm-hmm. And he sold that business for £200 million.
Oh, you can't live on it, but it's a good start.
Well, I don't know where you're living. Yeah, his palace. He was best friends with the Sultan of Brunei. There you go. So he sold it for $200 million, and he did say something, and then one of the dragons off Dragons Den said exactly the same thing. Build a business that someone wants to buy.
Yeah.
Build a business that someone wants to buy. Don't build a business to sell. And your two things there, you match those two things together, and because you've got to build the business with the customers in mind. You've got to have a value proposition there, but you've got to have the acquirers in mind as well.
Yeah.
What's the key to harmonizing them both then?
Well, it's two separate problems, and this is why so few customers, like for example, I really like buying the haircut where I go get my haircut. Like I have no problem. As a customer, the value proposition is clear. I paid £24 for my haircut. It's a really nice looking place, good service. Everything's just so. I have no problem. His problem is that he won't be able to sell that business, any time for a retirement amount of money. So he has a problem that he hasn't thought about what an acquirer wants, but he's very good at doing what a customer wants. So the problem, the difficult thing is that you have to walk and chew gum at the same time. You've got to be able to think about those two things, and you've got to understand, unfortunately, if I'm creating something of value that customers like, but it's not going to head anywhere, the challenge is that 10 years is going to fly by. You're going to just do week after week after week, month after month after month. Eventually, something will happen in your life, and you'll go, either I can't do this anymore, I'm sick of it, I'm exhausted, something will happen, and you'll go, I want to change, or I have to change. And then you go, gee, I wish I had built something that that I could sell.
When is the best time to revisit? When's the best time to revisit?
Every day.
Yesterday.
Yeah. The best time was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The second best time is today.
Yeah. There you go. So some people listening will be thinking, I wish I'd have done that 10 years ago. Well, don't. Just start now.
Well, it's not a lost cause. So every single 10-year block contains valuable intellectual property. And if you can identify the valuable intellectual property, you can pivot the business. So there's an activity that I get people to do when I'm asking this, where I draw a timeline of the last 10 years. And we go year by year by year. And I say, I'm looking for an example in this year. And the example has to meet the criteria. I did something special with a certain type of customer. We got a remarkable result, and I can explain it step by step. Now, if that little sentence, we go through year by year and we say, give me an example where I did something special with a certain type of customer, we got a remarkable result, explain it step by step. We say, give me an example from 2019, 2018, 2017. We go through the years, and then they go,
we build the assets.
Pardon?
So we're building the assets.
Well, we're trying to extract intellectual property, and that every single story that fits that criteria contains intellectual property. And that intellectual property could be software, could be media, could be data gathering, could be all sorts of stuff. You can do a lot once you know your intellectual property. So consider that there are most businesses that are commoditized businesses that are just a commodity. They're just doing a thing. Mm-hmm. It's functional, right? Then there's a set of layers of value that can spit out. So out of the back of something that's functional, we can develop intellectual property. We can turn intellectual property into media.
Yep.
We can then use media to gather more data. We can then build software tools, and we can plug it into AI. And it's like, So we can go on this value ladder off the back of any intellectual property. It starts typically with intellectual property. If you don't have IP, so for example, you said to me that you worked with Olympic teams. So I did something special with a certain type of person. We got a remarkable result, and I can explain it step by step. I bet you there is just like insane amounts of intellectual property in your head, but not all of it has been formalized into IP. Not all of it is media assets. Not all of it can then be gathering data. Not all of it can be turned into software. But I bet there is software. You could extrapolate some of the ideas in your head into software, and then you could plug AI into it. And now you've got something that would just be worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Let's just mention that AI word and technology and automations. Let's just throw them all into one.
Put them in the pot.
Yeah, let's just put them in the pot. What impact is that having on entrepreneurship right now?
Massive impact. Massive impact.
Is it making the opportunity worse or better?
Yes. It's disruptive. The really difficult thing, let's take a sport, for example. Imagine that everyone's running a marathon. And imagine halfway through the marathon, or let's say a couple of miles into the marathon, they update the rule book and they say, oh, by the way, anyone who wants to use a bicycle, if you want, you can get on a bike and ride the rest of the marathon if you want to. Right? So somehow some people figure out that that's now part of the rule book, and they get themselves on a bicycle and they just power out ahead. And now they're just saying, this is the easiest marathon I've ever done. Right? And then the others are sitting there going, they're looking at the times and they're going, they must have cheated. How was it possible that they did that? Well, they're using a piece of technology. I say, well, why wasn't I allowed to? Well, you were allowed to. Why didn't I do that? Well, because you just didn't read the rule book, or you didn't find yourself a bicycle. And then imagine that, like, the bicycle people, halfway through the marathon, they update again and they say, well, actually, if you want to get in a car, you can drive the car the rest of the marathon. If you want to, you can get yourself in a car. Some of them jump off the bicycle, jump into a car, and now they're flying down the highway at speeds that the runners can't even fathom. Cyclists can't really gather how they're doing it, but they're in a Ferrari. So if we look at traditional business, they're the runners. People who are using social media and they're using YouTube and they're doing that, they're the cyclists. And then the people who have plugged AI into it, they're the ones in the Ferrari.
And I wonder if there's going to be a jet that appears, or if someone invents teleportation in the future.
What we're starting to see is that teams of 3 to 12 people really could create stuff that makes like hundreds of millions.
See, that statement just makes all of the theory that we've just discussed practical.
Yeah.
And it injects belief into business owners right now that are in that. Well, why did you choose 3 to 9?
3 to 12?
3 to 12.
Well, you've got your traditional focuses of sales and marketing, customer success, admin leadership, getting the word out. So in the military, they have certain team sizes that work. So for scouting an opportunity, they call it a scout team, and it's 2 people, and it's never one person, it's 2. I've found the same thing with business, that if you have 2 people scouting an opportunity, one asking the question, can we sell it? The other one saying, can we build it? You get a good result. When I spin something new out, I'll put 2 people on the challenge. I'll give it to 2 of my people and say, go scout this opportunity. 4-person fire team is really good for short, punchy campaigns, to put 4 people on a team. 8-person section in the military is a really powerful, like, established unit. And then the next size up is a platoon that's about 30 people. Now
it goes from 8 to 30.
Yeah, it's like 4 sections.
They put 4 8s together.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they might also put a leadership team on that. So they might have a lieutenant or something like that. They have someone who's like a platoon commander, and a vice. So they might even all on top of that, they might have 3 or 4 people on it. So it's like, it comes in at about 30 to 40 people is a platoon typically. So I use the same with my businesses, that we go 2, 4, 8, 30. So when I'm scaling up businesses, I'm going 2-person scout team, 4-person campaign team, 8-person section, 30-person platoon. So we just take those jumps. But with AI, you probably don't need to go past a section. Just a section of highly skilled, highly talented SAS, Royal Marines working together with AI probably can build $100 million business with just like 8 to 12 people.
So it's possible to now do it with 8 to 12?
Yeah. You could build a very significant business with AI. I'm not saying you wouldn't hire another 20 or 30. If you're doing 100 million, why wouldn't you hire another 20 people just to...
Yeah, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk's got 1,000 people pouring out social posts every day.
Yeah, and he'll probably...
They're all probably using AI.
Yeah, and also what will emerge is that there'll probably be 20 or 30 super performers, and there'll come a time where the mathematics will tell him, or the AI will tell him, the fastest way to grow your business would be to bring those 1,000 people down to 30, and those top 30, but saving 970 payroll units reinvested in behind those 30 will be better value.
Interesting, isn't it? Power back. What did Piers Linney say? He says, in a world of exponential growth, you don't want to be left behind.
No, you do not. The faster you get in that car, in that marathon, we're seeing widening wealth inequality at the moment. And widening wealth inequality is because some people are running, some people are on cycles, some people are in cars.
Okay, so I'm the voice of the listener right now, and I'm stuck. Because on one hand, we've got this growing 8 to 30 or 12 to 30. It doesn't matter if it's 8 to 30 or 12 to 30. It really doesn't matter. There's a gap here before I get to 30, and I've got the team that's cohesive. I've got a leadership team that... So I'm in the middle of that. I've got 15 right now. But then I'm hearing on the other hand, I might be able to do this at 8. What do I do?
Well, when you're at 15, 16, 17 especially, you're too big to be small and too small to be big.
This is the Rebels and Misfits.
Rebels and Misfits are typically your first, like up to about 12.
Right.
So your Rebels and Misfits, you built Team 1. And Team 1 is like whoever you can get your hands on. So whenever I've launched businesses... I'm especially in the early days before I had a reputation, I could just drag together the best I could get. I mean, even to an extent, relative to my ambition, I'm still in the early days dragging together who I can get. So I dragged together my Rebels and Misfits team. Once we get to like 12, 13, 14, 15, we start to get into this phase called the desert. And the desert is where you're going from a small rebel and misfit to a professional performance business. And there's this phase of being too big to be small and too small to be big. So let's say you're 15, 16 people. It feels like you need managers and leaders, and it feels like you need to organize yourself better, but you can't afford any of that. It feels like you need to hire someone who's next level. But then you go and have a look at how much a next level person is, and they want like 150 grand a year, and you're like
commercial director or whatever it is.
Yeah, and you're sitting there, or you go talk to a recruiter, and the recruiter says, "Oh, we can get you someone great. They're 130,000 a year. We'll charge you 26,000 to hire them." And you're like, "What are you talking about? Like, where am I going to get that kind of money from? Right? How am I going to afford these people?" And then also, you hire those people. They turn up and you say, okay, what should we do? And one of their first recommendations is something like, oh, we need to hire a data analyst, or we need to hire...
I need to build my team now.
Yeah, because at my last job, I had 16 people who were on my team. I can't do what you hired me from Microsoft. Like, I can't replicate that without 15 more people. So they come in and they want to hire another 5 to 10 people. So you as the entrepreneur, you just collapse into a heap. So it's this really difficult. So then you think, I'll just go back to 8 people.
Yeah, which is a trap. But
they start sleeping together as well.
How dare you bring this up?
Less so now.
The reality of the world that we live in today. Welcome to the Biz X podcast, sharing with you all of the secrets and winning formulas in both business and life, with powerful lessons from guests like Frank Bruno, Nick Jenkins, Brad Sugars, Bianca Westwood, and many, many more. Yet, the sad reality is that over 80% of you aren't subscribed yet. And if that's you, hit the subscribe button now and help us grow this channel so that you can get 1% closer every single week to achieving your dreams in both business and life. Let's do this today.
Less so now they're remote, but
I wonder, is that true? Is there a stat on that?
Maybe they hook up on Slack, right? They have little Slack messages to each other. But something magic happens at about 17, 18 people, where you get the first romantic relationships inside the team, and it's like, oh, just when we started to get past the dramas, we got new dramas. So, sorry to bring that up.
Yeah, that's all good. But there's a thought going through my mind. It's, let's just go, let's say we're committed. We're going to build this leadership team. We need this. Even with technology, getting to 30 is still the priority. There's an advantage, I'm thinking in my head, there's an advantage of getting there quicker. Because this is painful until you're there, yeah? So, naturally, I'm thinking get funding in.
Yeah, the best way to do this is fast. So the fastest I've ever done this was 4 days.
Right. So a normal fast would maybe be 2 years.
I would prefer to try and do it in 4 days.
Yeah.
So, the way to do it is you start with your team of 8 to 12. You host a conference for all the people that you might want to bring onto the performance team.
Host a conference?
3-day conference. You bring in 60 to 70 people who might join the next level team. And then you present the vision, the mission, the values. You present the new org chart. You share what we've been able to achieve with 12. You share what we're going to look like next level. And then you invite people to come and join the company. And you finish the conference on day 3, putting together the new performance team, and basically committing to each other that we're now a new performance team. And everyone's bought in on the vision, the mission, the values. Everyone knows contextually we've drawn a line in the sand. This is now over. We don't have this anymore. We're now this. So you're doing a proper company reset. Everyone now understands this is the new org chart. This is the new performance targets. We're all now working together as a team as of this date. So it's the easiest way to grow up is not to grow through it, but just to transform.
Yeah, in 4 days.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
It was 2018 was the last time I did that.
Have you ever shared that?
I just did.
Before that, have you shared it before that?
I don't know how much I've talked. By the way, this was not my company. I was brought in.
I'm not bothered whose it was.
I was brought in to transform a company that was doing really well at 12, and they needed to be 40, and we went from 12 to 40 in 3 days.
The reason I'm asking you this is because I do a lot of reading. I read a lot of books, and your books are exceptional. You are exceptional. You communicate really clearly about business growth, structure, and sometimes you get a blinding flash of the obvious, common sense. Sometimes you can have an epiphany, which is radical. And 4 days, 3-day conference, utter genius.
You like that one?
No, it's really good. It's really good. I mean, some people...
And it's counterintuitive. It's easier than trying to grow through it.
No, I've got some detail on here, because let's say we do this conference. And I'm the voice of the listeners here. Let's say we do this conference, and 60 people are invited for the next phase. We enroll, we inspire, through all of where we're going, what we're doing. Are we getting them to buy in, or self-fund, or are we going to literally be paying their salaries? Because I'm going to recruit. Yeah. I'm going to go from 12.
Yeah.
To 35 after this, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
the truth is that the funding is a separate challenge. So the team change is one challenge, and the funding of the team changes is going to be a separate challenge. So if it was a partnership model, you'd get them to buy in. Let's say it's a firm of sorts, they might buy in. If it's a tech company, you'd raise capital. You'd have a separate investor. You'd have a VC who says we're going to, like, for example, a VC-funded company. They typically raise the money and then they hire 30 people, and they do it as quick as they can. So you have the separate capital. The company I'm talking about was actually a very niche and high value consulting firm that signed up clients at $200,000 a month minimum. So a couple of million a year to be a client. And they worked exclusively with very high-end manufacturing firms. And what they did is they had a waiting list of potential clients that wanted to bring in their expertise. They knew all the best people in the industry who worked independently and who worked for other consulting firms. So they reached out for their networks. They invited everyone to the conference. Said, and basically the shtick or the gambit was, we've got a waiting list of 5 or 6 ready to go clients who want to pay $200,000 a month. As soon as we're ready to bring you in, we want to take them all on. We want to take on this business. Do you want to come and join us? These are the clients. This is the type of work you'd be doing. Are you ready to come and join this? Join the team. So they had pre-registered waiting list of clients.
Yeah, and I suppose you could go both ways, chicken or egg. What comes first, chicken or egg? You could say, let's find the people and let's get the funding, or let's get the funding and then go find the people. I'd probably personally prefer to have the funding backed somehow first. But it's a first world problem. You got the people. If you find the people, it's a first world problem. Now, is this in person, this conference, or is this virtual?
It depends on how you intend to go forward. So
yeah, because you could have 30 people in 30 different countries.
Yeah, this particular one was in person here in London, and people flew in from around the world. It depends on what you can do funding wise. I even with our Score app tech company, we got people all over the world. We try and get as many of our team in the same place at the same time every 90 days as we can. So if that means a few flights, we have to do a few flights, but we don't have offices. Everyone works remotely most of the time. So we redeploy the money that we would normally have spent on offices and things like that.
For the 90-day meet.
Yeah. So every 90 days we do a reset. So we have a 90-day reset every 90 days. So I have a group of companies. Yeah. Every company has a 90-day reset schedule. So we basically bring as many of the people together as possible. Dent Global, we bring people in from Australia, from the US, from Canada. They all fly into London. We actually do that 3 times a year, so it's every 4 months.
Right.
Yeah. So we're all in the same location where we hunker down for 3 or 4 days as a team. We reset the team, and then we go off on our separate ways. And we just do that over and over. It's our rhythm.
It's a nice rhythm. It does strike me the importance of the vision. Because we're thinking really big here, aren't we? And not everyone's a visionary. What our visionaries got? What's this?
In many cases, a visionary has actually just seen the end state before.
Because that's all a vision is. Vision is sight, yeah?
Yeah.
Vision is your sight. Actually, the insight is your thinking behind it. Is what's going on in here.
Yeah.
But the vision is seeing the future that you want.
The secret behind most visionaries is not that they have phenomenal imagination. In many cases, they've actually just seen what it looks like for real. So, someone who's built a $100 million tech company and knows what it looks like in the end state right before it's sold, it's very easy for them to have the vision as to what it's going to look like. Yeah, they can do it again. It's often the case that the most exciting business leaders worked for a super exciting business leader. The PayPal mafia. So you get all these companies that worked with Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and the culture, the craziness that those guys created for PayPal. And then a dozen of those senior people who were early days at PayPal went off and started multi-billion-dollar companies. I think there's 12 multi-billion-dollar companies off the back of PayPal mafia. So they had all had the experience of seeing what it's like to create a PayPal, and then they just went off and replicated it. I personally have had probably a dozen young people who have worked for me and have now got a 7-figure business. They're multi-million pound business. So I've got a string of them who have gone off to start their own businesses or taken on their family businesses. And they're now in the millions to tens of millions. But disproportionately, a number of people who couldn't have happened by luck, who have worked for me and then gone off and started their own.
This is a really important question, actually, because in the process of building to 8 or 12 or 30 plus, whichever one it is, knowing that any one of them can help you build this global small business, how important is personal branding for them people in it? Because we can't. That's the elephant in the room. Some businesses don't want people to personal brand. Others do.
Yeah. So for every team, you need someone who's going to be the key person of influence. And that's just a new role that now exists. So you have to have a key person of influence. You have to have a face. So talent wants to work for a tent pole talent, right? So think about like that tent pole, the center pole that just kind of, think about how you would put up a big tent. You hoist up the tent pole in the middle, and then all the other tent poles come in and surround it, and then you can take that big tent pole out, and the whole thing stays up. What we're seeing at the moment is that people want to work for a flagship person, a key person of influence. And you know, there was a debate that I got involved in on Twitter or X about like someone saying that Elon Musk didn't do any of the things, you know. I'm like, okay, let's say he didn't, but he attracted the talent who does. You know, so like crazy talented people just want to work around Elon Musk. So maybe he doesn't actually do anything. Let's say that's true. He does have the brand to bring the talented engineers to work around him. You know, Ryan Reynolds can get things to happen if he's involved in a certain brand now.
What a marketer, by the way.
What a marketer, right?
I mean, him and Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know, they
can mobilize the resources.
Well, I think even the global hotshot marketers like yourself around the world, you can just watch Hugh Jackman and Deadpool and Wolverine. You just can watch them both, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. You can just literally watch them right now and learn.
Yep.
Because that is marketing.
Yeah.
That is funny. That is charismatic. That is in your face. That is getting organic views everywhere.
Yeah.
They're putting the effort in. They're connecting to people.
And they fill the tickets. They sell the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the key. You do have to have someone who's got the personal brand. It doesn't have to be famous. Like we've used famous examples there, but it doesn't have to be famous. It's someone who knows
and believes.
Someone who knows, someone who believes, someone who creates the belief in others. Not even if they believe, that you get others to believe.
Do you know, one of my mentors, psychologist Mark Bordon, very proud to have worked with him for a series of years. He was head psychologist for English Institute of Sport. And this is before I became a performance director, and I'd always aspired, you know, to work at that level of being in overall charge of performance. And he was working with some of the best in sport, in rowing, in cycling, and, you know, think of all of the gold medals that they'd won. And he says, James, I'm going to give you some advice. He says, and I took notes, and still to this day, I remember it was a very, very short kind of session, but profound wisdom. And he said, I'm going to tell you what all of the successful performance directors do and what all of the unsuccessful performance directors don't do. And this is the only thing that's different, is they get a vision, and they not only believe in it, they get everyone else to believe in it.
Yeah.
And he says, here's the thing, it doesn't matter if the vision's right or wrong, it will work. And it's the power. So as you said that there, I kind of get that. I mean, it's your ability to get other people to believe where you're going.
It's to enroll people. A big part of being a leader or an entrepreneur is enrolling others. The quality of the business is really down to the quality of the number twos you can enroll.
How many number twos can you have?
You can have a lot of number twos. You know, I got 7 companies that I don't run any of them. They're all run by each company. So I've centralized the CEO and CFO role. And then
when you say centralized, all right, so there's one CEO, one CFO for all of the companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then each company has what we would call a CRO and a COO.
A CRO?
Yeah, Chief Revenue.
All right.
Or you could go Chief Marketing.
Okay.
Right? So someone who's responsible for creating new customers, and someone who's responsible for operations.
Yeah.
Customer delight.
So each one of your sub-companies has got
7 companies, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a centralized CEO and CFO.
Yeah.
And then we've got, in each company, we've got head of marketing and head of customer delight.
Yeah.
Customer experience, customer delight.
Customer operations, yeah.
So we've got head of ops, head of marketing in each.
Yeah.
Nice structure, isn't it? That?
Yeah, and then you can replicate that. So for me, it's not hard running 7 companies because they just bring me the hard problems if they want to. But yeah, we have someone whose job is winning customers and someone whose job is delighting customers, and away we go.
How old are you, Daniel?
43.
Where did you learn all this from?
A little bit of trial and error, and as you can tell, I'm a massive business geek. I just geek out on this stuff. I watch videos, I read books.
Who've been the 3 biggest trusted advisors in your life?
So Action Coach was Brad Sugars. Yeah. Brad Sugars' mentor was a guy called Paul Dunn.
Yeah.
So I had Paul as a mentor as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's a strange connection there.
Titans are born from
Paul
Dunn.
Beautiful, humble, amazing business leader, built 3 $20 million companies, one after the next, now runs an incredible not-for-profit called Buy One, Give One, which is changing the world in its own way. So Paul, definitely a big influence. My very first mentor that I worked for was John Gian. John also, I think, is connected to Paul. But John... I did 2 years working for him when I was 19 to 21. So we're talking a long time ago, half my life ago. But he had a profound impact on me at the time. I went through the process of being part of a fast growth company, with him. Some other entrepreneurs who have built and sold great companies and built, I'm part of a skiing group where some of the best software companies get together every year and we all go skiing together, and just being on the chairlift and having those conversations, and so and so sold their company for 1.5 billion, and so and so bootstrapped to 900 million of revenue, and blah blah blah, like those kinds of people.
I'm a believer in, even though you're 43, you've had these mentors around you, you're an incredible success story. You hear this success leaves clues all of the time, don't you? I'm a big believer in mistake gives you the biggest lessons. What have been the biggest mistakes you've made in business?
I've made some. I've tried to make them all, I think, at some point. A big mistake was giving equity to somebody without
unnecessarily,
without conditions, without clawbacks.
Right.
That almost sunk one of my major companies. So that was pretty painful, trying to get that equity back. That was a bit of a mistake. There's probably, if I objectively, the biggest mistakes were like rushing in with an idea that I'm super excited about without talking to someone who has sold a company for a lot of money and asking the question, will this actually end up being valuable or not?
You see, that is a big reason for financial mistakes that people make in general, like excessive levels of optimism.
Yeah.
Is the biggest, your blind spot now is massive because all you can see is the optimistic side in front of you.
So I'll tell you how I'm correcting that mistake. So this morning I was talking to one of my co-founder in Score App, and we were talking about 3 or 4 major development paths that we're thinking about, features wise, and stuff that will take 6 to 9 months to build and deploy and roll out. And we're talking about 3 or 4 options. And I said, before we take any action on any of those, let me talk to my friend who's a business broker who sells companies for 100 million plus, and I'm going to ask which of these gets the highest multiple, right? So for example, one of the features is about marketing customer engagement feature, and one of them is about a data analytics feature. And I'll just talk to my friend who's a business broker and say, if we were more customer engagement focused or data analytics focused, which one is worth more? And he'll say to me, data analytics, marketing, customer engagement's nice, but those features are more commoditized than data analytics, and data analytics attracts a higher multiple from an acquirer. And I'll go, okay, great. So ultimately, even though I might be more excited about customer engagement features, I want to focus our attention on the data analytics features because that's what makes the company more valuable.
turning the life lesson into a practical reality moving forward.
But everyone, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you should go and talk to someone who sells businesses for a living and go and ask them, am I building something of value? So what you want to do is you want to go to a business broker and you want to say, I'm impossible to offend. You can punch me straight in the nose. I'll love it. Am I building something of value here?
How good is that positioning, by the way? It's like, I'm impossible to offend. You can say anything. All you're going to receive is the truth. And the truth may hurt, but the truth will help.
Truth will set you free, as they say. I say this phrase a lot. So any new people who come onto my team, one of the first things I'll say to them is, you've probably seen my personality on podcasts and all of that sort of stuff. You probably get that I'm like, been around and had lots of experience, but I have hundreds of blind spots. There's a million things I have absolutely no idea about. I can't see what you see. I want to know the blind spots. I'm impossible to offend. I love locking horns, right? You can tell me I'm full of shit and I'll love it. So if we're working together and you pick up the phone and say, Daniel, I want to tell you 3 things that you suck at, I'm going to be super happy about that conversation. I just want you to know up front, there's impossible to offend.
Right. I mean, look, you've wrote Key Person of Influence, Oversubscribed, Entrepreneur Revolution, Scorecard Marketing. Which of those books did you learn the most from writing?
24 Assets. 24 Assets was the one I learned the most. That's where I had to decode all my mistakes and actually. So 24 Assets is a business geek book.
That's not Oversubscribed, no.
No.
So it's a different. There's one that I didn't mention.
Yeah, it's less popular. So I'll explain 24 Assets. If you were to speak to a builder or an expert architect about what is a building, an expert architect will say, well, a building is all sorts of systems that are sitting on top of each other. There's foundations, there's the structure, there's also the electricity and the plumbing. These are different. There's the whole waterproofing system. There's the security system. So they're going to say there's actually all these systems. Now, I look at a building and I go, it's just one thing, it's a building. But someone who knows what they're talking about, they go, no, it's not one thing. It's multiple things layered on top of each other to look like one thing. But actually, if I take the plumbing system out, you're not going to be wanting to live in that building. So a business is the same. People look at a business from a distance and they go, oh, that's just one thing. It's a business. I go, well, wait a second. It's actually layers and layers and layers of things. So I codified all the 24 things that have to sort of sit together in order to create value. And I put it into this thing called 24 Assets. But that was from lots of punches in the face, lots of pain, lots of struggles, trying to come up with a model that would actually allow me to build businesses and replicate them quickly.
There you go. We've added one to the mix as well, folks. Better put that one on your list. What's the most beautiful thing when it comes to entrepreneurship right now?
The most beautiful thing?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the most beautiful thing is that you can build a global business while still dropping the kids at school and spending time with them on the carpet playing Legos in the afternoon.
Has the opportunity ever been this glorious?
It's never been so good. Do you know, in 2019, I had a business going like that, and I had 3 little kids, and I was on planes.
How old are your kids?
10, 7, and 6. So I was staring down the barrel of being torn between business and family, and then thanks to the pandemic and everything going remote, I don't have to choose anymore. I drop the kids at school every morning. I typically take half an hour to just hang out in the afternoon when they get home from school, and then I might be on a Zoom call with someone later on that afternoon who's in LA, and we're talking about doing a deal. It's changed
the world positively, hasn't it? It's like
I'm forever grateful that I get to spend that time and I don't have to choose. Like, it's beautiful.
So that problem has been fixed, really, hasn't it? I'm torn between choosing between family and work. It's kind of there's certainly a relaxed tension between the two now.
And also, the way that you know you're on track now is that you don't have to choose, and the feeling of having to choose between the two should tell you that you're doing something wrong. If you feel like you have to go into an office, why? Why are you not using more technology so you don't? Right, so like the people who are building the most valuable fast growth companies at the moment, it's all online, it's all technical, they can do it from home, they've got remote teams, they're using technology. So it's a good sign that you don't have to choose now.
One thing we haven't talked about in this, and I took note of this, I wanted to get your opinion on this. So this is Steve Jobs' quote, may he rest in peace. Your work fills a large part of your life. And the only way to be really satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. So he's saying, do what you believe is great work and you will feel satisfaction. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. Do you have to love what you do?
Yes, but love has a deeper meaning than the superficial meaning. Love means that you would suffer for it. Like if you love your kids, you'd suffer for the kids. If you love your spouse, you'll take on stuff that you wouldn't normally take on. So there's an element to love that is actually about a willingness to suffer, as well as the passion or the positives. Like even the word passion, actually, it comes from the passion of the Christ, which is Christ's sacrifice. So it's a willingness to sacrifice. Now, what we've lost in this modern era is this other side of love, which is sacrifice and problem solve and working on a meaningful problem. You take a ballerina who loves dancing, she'll dance till her feet bleed, beyond good judgment. The pain, she'll tolerate the pain. So it's the willingness to endure. So when we think about a quote like that, a lot of people, especially young people at the moment, they think that what they're searching for is stuff that makes them feel good all the time. They think that, if I love what I do, that means that there's no sacrifice, that there's no feeling of struggle. It's like bullshit. If you love what you do, you're going to sacrifice and struggle. That's actually a hallmark of love. A hallmark of love is sacrifice and struggle. Once you have kids, you get it, because you're like, a lot of it is sacrifice and struggle. And why do you do that? Because you love it. Because you love your family, you love your kids. So this is one thing that's kind of missing from that quote, that you can take it at a superficial level and say, every day should be another party, holiday day. No. Every day should be struggle and sacrifice, because I love the damn thing.
Beautiful addition. What's the best gift a leader can give anyone?
A pen. I'm just kidding. Just being a Mont Blanc pen.
With a Moleskine book, a Journal Moleskine journal. There you go. You've been here 10 years. Here's your Mont Blanc.
Here's your Mont Blanc pen. I think that you leave people better than you found them, and that whether they stay or whether they go, they walk away like seriously leveled up. I'm super proud of all the people, bar one, super proud of all the people who have left and gone on to better things. Like I've left in my wake, I've left a dozen multimillionaires who are now multimillionaires because they left and they started a company. There's a young guy who used to be an assistant to me, and he went and took on the family business and grew it from 500,000 a year to 5 million a year in 3 years. Two young guys on my sales team went off and started a company in the pandemic and sold it for 7 million within 3 years. I've got a young guy who went off and started an amazing music studio business, and now it's worth 5 to 10 million, and it's super amazing business. 50 employees. So I can go through all these people who used to work with me. They did 2, 3, 4 years under my wing, and then they've gone off and just kicked the door off the hinges, and they've built multi-million-dollar businesses. I'm super proud of that. That's like, they've downloaded the playbooks, and they're now executing those playbooks somewhere else. That's epic.
What's the 3 best books you've ever read, not yours?
Well, can I preface that by saying this, that the book that does change your life the most is one that you write. And I always tell people, go write a book. Like, it's not going to be impossible. It's easier than ever to write a book. If you've had some experiences, get those experiences into a written format. Every time you write a book, you're developing your own intellectual property. That intellectual property can become media. That media can become data. That data can become software. And that software can have AI in it. But you need IP to start with. So write a book. Like, writing a book is a great way to get IP out. It used to be that you had to have a publisher and all of that sort of stuff. You don't need any of that anymore. So this is the time where everyone who's had some experiences could become an author. So, you know, I know you gave me the thing of like, you can't be mine. But I am going to say to any listeners, if you've got time to read books, you've probably got time to write some books. And you're probably going to get more from writing a book than reading a book. You know, you will unpack your own intellectual property in the process of writing that book. So write a book. I would love to challenge people. Like, we've all read great books and they're great while you're reading them. And then you move on to the next one and then you move on to the next one. And I think it's always a great habit to be like, you know, having 3 or 4 great books you've read that year and that you've tried to implement them. I'm not against that. But it will change your life to write a book. Like, once it's published, you are forevermore an author. You've put that, if you die, that book will still be in the world. You know, that IP can turn into so much. It can become a great cultural document within your company. Every one of your employees can have that book as a way of understanding origin story of the company. So, like, it's an artifact. It's a really powerful artifact to unpack from your mind and put it into the real world. So I'm just going to say, if you got time to read, got time to write.
Has there been any 2 books that have had the biggest impact on you?
You mean ones I've read?
Yeah, ones that you've read of others.
I really enjoyed Shoe Dog, the story of building Nike. That was great. Principles,
incredible philosophy he's got.
Principles is great. Ray Dalio's Principles. Yeah, a bit of autobiography and a bit of like what makes his company tick. You know, there are some simple books that you can even read a few pages and you get it and you go with it. Like Mike Michalowicz's books are like that. Profit First. First. You can read the cover, and then you kind of download the thing. And if you just set up a Profit First account, that will change your life. I'm just trying to think of some of the other.
Just go with them.
Those ones. Yeah.
I mean,
those are the ones
Principles, Shoe
Dog, Profit First.
There you go. But no. What is first is write your own.
Write your own.
So, speaking of first, the listeners have now listened to you. What's the first action they should take?
From everything we've talked about, we've really talked a lot about this idea of begin with the end in mind. The first action is to work out, do you want a lifestyle business or a performance business? A lifestyle business, it's geared towards fun, freedom, and flexibility, loads of media, loads of IP. You can run it from anywhere. And it's probably going to tap out at 12 people tops. And it's probably going to tap out at 1 to 2 million of profit, and maybe 3 or 4 million of revenue. That's probably a lifestyle business by design. Performance business is going to be minimum 5 to 10 million of revenue, minimum 2 million of profit, 30 people plus. So work out, do you want a lifestyle business or a performance business? Zoom forward in your head a few years from now, create a mental picture of it, double check, am I building that? Am I actually building a lifestyle? Like, if you want a lifestyle business, there's nothing wrong with wanting a lifestyle business. You're not going to sell it, you're going to keep it. And it's going to be epic, and you're going to be on a beach, and it's going to work, and you're going to travel, and it's going to take you places. It's going to take you on adventures. Fine. But are you building that? Like, is that actually, like, are you building it by design? You know, talk to someone who's got that, and ask them the question. Say, I'm impossible to offend. Am I building something that will end up like what you've got? So those are some things. The other thing too, I'm going to encourage people to do this. Get into the environment where what you want becomes normal. We have to be in environments that normalize success. You're not going to be winning an Olympic medal, I'm guessing, if you are trying to do it all on your own and you're up against people who have joined Team GB and they're training together and they're working out together and they're with the coaches together. That environment dictates a level of success that you can't replicate outside of that environment. So this idea that environment dictates performance is a very, very powerful idea. One of your biggest decisions is the environments you place yourself in. Turning up to Biz X is going to be a certain environment. There are going to be people who turn up to Biz X and they're going to walk through the door on the first day and they're going to go, I'm feeling a bit down, I'm not energized, my batteries are run down, I don't have any big ideas. That same person, 24 hours later, 48 hours later, they're going to have pages of notes, they're going to be buzzing, they're going to have met someone who they're fast friends with and talking through their strategies with. And just by making the decision to turn up to that environment will change their life in some way. There are people who don't feel like it, but they get into a business accelerator and then the accelerator takes off, right? The accelerator pushes them where they need to go. So long-term, you can't change your own behavior. You always revert back to the mean. But if you make the choice to enroll into an environment where the normal result is big things happen, that's a big choice.
Nature only grows when the environment is favourable, folks. You've heard it here first. So, my favourite part of this session was actually the 4 days. The 4 days. I mean, that is a challenge, isn't it? That blew my mind. What's been your favourite part?
I like the way you've run this. We've jumped around. We covered some ground in an hour here. I think we just covered a lot. we unpack. Do you have a natural curiosity that this normally happens?
Yeah. It might feel like we've been jumping around, but let me tell you, it's all been deliberate.
Yeah, and I like the questions.
Good man. Well, the good news is, folks, you get to see Daniel Priestley live at Biz X 2025 Farnborough. See you there.
Can't wait.
Thank you very much. If you like what you hear on the Biz X podcast, then join us at the Biz X conference, bringing you more of what you love, live on stage and helping you step up in both business and life. Just click down here for more information.